There's a tool in Procreate that some beginners either ignore completely or barely use, and it's one of the most useful ones in the whole app. It's the selection tool, and once you know what it can do, you're probably going to use it all the time. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how it works, so like recoloring, moving, duplicating, fixing, all without touching the rest of your artwork. So let's get into it. So if you've ever thought, I only want to change just one little part of my drawing, not the whole thing, that is what the selection tool is for. So think of it like putting an invisible fence around part of your artwork. Anything inside the fence can be changed, and anything outside the fence is safe. So to find your selection tool, there's this little S here. So we're just going to tap on that, and up pops this little toolbar, and it gives us different ways to choose the part of the picture we want to work on. So let's actually start with automatic first. Automatic selection is like a smart selection. So if you tap on an area and Procreate tries to guess what part you want to select. Now it's important to note that if everything's not on the same layer, you're going to want to select the layers. So if I select the group and I go to select, it says open layers. But if you want to select multiple layers, so you can see that I have these little details on separate layers, you're going to have to slide to the right to select those. So I've just selected my flowers. So we can do multiple layers at a time, and that's really powerful. Okay, so back to selection. So I have automatic selected, and then we just tap on the flowers. You can see that it just selects all the flowers. Now, you'll notice if I move here, the threshold comes up. Depending on what you're selecting, it'll overfill. So if you go too far, it might overfill. So we don't want that. The threshold basically means how much Procreate should grab. So if you drag it to the right, it'll drag more until it overflows, or to the left and it will be less. In this example, it's doing what we need it to do. So it's just selecting what we want. So imagine threshold like you're pouring water into a shape. A little threshold means the water will stay small. A lot of threshold means the water will spread farther and farther and maybe overflow. So automatic is wonderful for quick selecting, but it works best when your edges are clean enough for Procreate to understand what you're trying to choose. That's why this example works so cleanly. If we had softer edges, it might be a little bit harder for Procreate to pick that up. So next we have Freehand. So the Freehand selection tool, so freehand selection is like drawing a little fence yourself. So you can use your pencil or your finger to draw around the part you want. It's probably the one that I use the most, I would say, because it gives you the most control. So let's say I just want to select the flower. So I'm just going to, again, I have all my layers all selected. I'm just going to grab that flower with freehand so I can just draw here. Now I don't have to worry about this because that layer isn't selected, and I can just draw, and then I can move it wherever I want, spin it around, and place it wherever you want, which is great. And then you can just tap and be done. Or you can go ahead if you want to go and make sure that you've closed your selection. You can just tap on that dot to make sure that you have a complete selection. You can also tap and create straight lines. So this would be helpful if you're trying to trace around like a window or something that has much more sharp lines and edges, and then just make sure you connect the dots. So that's a really easy way to do it as well. And you can do a combination of both if you prefer. So you can do straight lines, then continue to draw another straight line. It's pretty flexible. All right. So not only can you actually select things with the selection tool, you can actually draw things. You can use it to create shapes on a new layer. So I'm just going to create a new layer here and just draw something. So let's just take the rectangle. Again, you can select something with a rectangle shape, or you could fill it. So you could drag in here, and now you have a nice crisp shape. And there you go. See, that's on that layer there. Or you could go ahead and draw an ellipse. So you could also use this as a selection tool or fill, but there's an even easier way than just dragging this in. You can just go here to color fill. So this will automatically fill whatever color is in your little color dropper here. So, but do be mindful, this one can be a little bit tricky. If you've forgotten to take that off, it can wreck your selection. So just do be mindful of that. Once you go back, it is set on, so you just can turn that off again. So when it's blue, it's on. When it's black, it's not. So now you know how to select something by using automatic freehanded rectangle or ellipse. Let's look at what these buttons, more about these buttons that are in here. Okay, first is add, which means I want to select more. So maybe you've already selected a petal, but you want to select 2 more petals. So again, I do have my layers selected. If you're working on one layer, then this is simple. But if you have multiple layers, then select those. Then we're gonna go, I'm gonna use freehand. So maybe I've selected these flowers here and made that selection. I have my stripy lines, so that's safe. Inside is what I've selected. Add is on. I can continue on to include more flowers or more petals or more items. So that's nice. Now you can, the reverse is true. So if I want to remove, I can go ahead and maybe remove this one. Just make sure you tap on the circle. And now that's removed. So if I see my selection, just these ones are selected. So just remember that your first selection does not have to be perfect. You can always use beyond add or remove to fix it. So next is invert. Invert sounds complicated, but it just means swap sides. Okay, so let's have a look here. Again, I still have all of my layers selected, and let's just have a look at this. So what if I just went and just did this petal part here? We see the stripes are on the outside, but if I tap invert, now the stripes are just on that petal. Okay, so then the opposite is true. Everything but that petal will be selected. So for copy and paste, we're going to have to select something. Now, it's important to note when using copy and paste, it will only copy and paste one layer. So here we have all of our layers selected. It's not going to work that way. It will do it, but you'll see it will only select this lower one here. So let's have a look again. Copy and paste, and you see it's just done this one here. It hasn't done all of our other ones. So this is a great way to be able to duplicate smaller parts of your artwork that you don't have to redraw again. It's great for patterns. It's great for just making little motifs and whatnot. So definitely a useful tool. All right, let's go on to feather now. So you'll see feather is here. So if we just create an ellipse, and I'm going to color fill it because we already know what that one is. I'll just do this. Now if I tap on feather, you'll see it's at none. But if I slowly zoom out, you can see how it just feathers it out. Just gets nice and soft around the edges. And there you go. Now you have a nice feathered shape and a feathered selection. So think of feather like changing your selection from sharp scissors to a soft cloud-like shape. So next is load and save. So first you want to make a selection, and maybe you want to save it again to use later. So if you've carefully selected a character or something that's quite, more difficult and time consuming, and you'll want to come back and have that exact selection again, instead of redrawing it every time, you can save it. Then later you can load it again. So you can just hit here and tap on that, and that now is saved. So you can reload that anytime by going back in here. We'll just go here and tap on that, and there is your original selection here. So super simple. So it could be handy definitely for more complex selections. So now let's talk about a few real ways you might use the selection tool in your art. One would be recoloring. Okay, so we could go in with our freehand and just do this nice little selection here. I'm going to take my time a little bit and just have a clear selection. And let's say I just wanted to recolor this. Now I could simply drag and drop. I wouldn't need that picky of a selection, to be honest. But what if I wanted to paint it with a paintbrush? So I could do that really easily, just like that. So that would be a practical way to color change that little selection. Or you could always, just like I said, drag and drop it. The second applicable way to use your selection tool would be cleaning edges. So you can select an area that you want to protect, then erase, or paint without worrying about going outside the lines. So you can go ahead with your freehand. Let's say we wanted to clean this up a little bit. I can go there and then with my eraser just erase that little section, and that's tidied that up. And third, you might just want to move small pieces. So we can easily do that with our freehand. Again, just drawing carefully. Just that one part, doesn't matter the rest. And then I can just simply move this, adjust this just a little bit. I want it at a different angle. And there we go. I don't have to upset anything else on my painting. Next would be copying elements. So maybe I just want to have a copy of this for later, or I can use it. So copy and paste. So now it's on a new separate layer. So I can move it around and size it up, size it down, flip it, of course. And, you know, just if I wanted another leaf somewhere, I could simply do that. And last, maybe adding some soft effects. So let's have a look at that. We'll go to our ellipse. Maybe we'll make a little background here. We will color fill, feather, like so. And we'll have a lovely soft little background. So the selection tool is super handy for a lot of editing of your work and creation of your work as well. So again, you can use it to adjust, move, duplicate, create shapes and glows. So it's pretty versatile and it lets you try things without ruining the rest of your artwork, which is always wonderful. So it lets you fix little areas, it lets you move, copy, recolor, and experiment. And once you understand it, Procreate starts to feel a little bit more flexible, I think. So a simple way to remember it is selection means only work here. Automatic is like the magic selection. Freehand is kind of like the fence that you can draw and make it whatever shape you want. Rectangle and ellipse are quick shapes or quick selections. Add means you can choose more, continue with your selection. Remove would be taking away from your selection. Invert just means you're choosing the opposite. Copy and paste, of course, means duplicate onto a new layer. And feather just gives those soft edges. Save and load remembers your selection. And color fill fills it with color. Do remember to turn it off once you've used it, because otherwise you'll forget. Once you start using the selection tool, you'll probably use it all the time because it really makes editing your artwork so much easier, cleaner, and a lot more versatile. So that's the selection tool, one of those things that once you know it, you wonder how you ever worked without it. If you're a beginner and want to understand Procreate in an easy and fun way, grab the free goodie bag linked below. It includes my free Procreate for Beginners course that gives you a full overview of everything you need to know about Procreate. And we also do some really fun projects in there as well. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe and comment what you'd like to see next. And if you want to keep improving your art and have some inspiration, watch this next video over here. It'll really help you out. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.